Thank you, and hello, everybody. So I think I have seen all of you online, and I saw your introduction. So I think you might have seen my introduction, but basically, I've been involved with adult education for a super long time. I started in 1987, still in the San Diego community, working with adult education and workforce development. And so thinking about how we accelerate the learning experience for adult students so that they can get to work or they can get to the next level of instruction as quickly as possible and efficiently and effectively as possible is something that I really it's one of my favorite subjects. So I'm happy to be able to talk about that. And I'm really happy that we'll be able to work on that together over the next 4 weeks. I see that Maria has put in the chat the handouts for today's meeting. So if you haven't already downloaded this handout, it is something that we're going to pause throughout today to give you a chance to kind of reflect and take some notes on. During the 4 weeks of this course, we're going to go through a lot of different accelerated learning strategies. And I think that it's important to use this little graphic organizer so that you remember these things as we go through, because honestly, we have 18 different ones that we'll talk about over the course. So in the first 2 weeks, we're going to be looking at probably 15 or 16 of them. So it's a lot to keep straight. So if you can take a look at that handout and use it to help keep all of these different strategies in your mind, that would be great. I'm going to drive us ahead in our agenda. Oh, and it's suddenly not letting me advance, Maria. We practiced and it was. Oh, maybe I was just going with the delay. So hold on a second. Okay, so I'm going to start with our objectives. We have these 4 different objectives for today. We're going to talk a little bit about what a career pathway is. I think probably all of you, I think in your introductions, I saw that all of you are involved in career technical education and career education in your agencies. So career pathways is something that's probably a part of your vocabulary. But we're going to take a look at what the official definitions are of career pathways, and we'll be diving into that a little bit deeper in the course as well. We're also going to talk about how specific accelerated learning strategies can facilitate career pathways. I think the old way of thinking about career education was that you might have established sort of a baseline. Students have to meet this level before they can enroll in a course. And the whole point of accelerated learning strategies is for us to be able to say, students can enter where they are and that will provide instruction to them. So it's not this linear process, first do this, then do this, then do this, but we're trying to do it at the same time so students can access career pathways almost immediately. We'll identify several of the key components of accelerated learning strategies. And then ultimately, by the time you finish this course, each of us will have our own action plan to implement at least one of the strategies at our agency. So before we go on, does everybody have the handout? Is there anything that you need? Are we ready to move ahead? Thumbs up. Okay, thank you too. All right, Scott, I see your thumb coming up. Thank you. So just a little bit about the course expectations. Oh, wait, people are exploding. Lee and Danielle, thank you. Everybody's with us. So for course expectations, I mean, I think all of us have participated in communities of practice before, and I think especially in this format, because we're looking at a 4-week course, it's really, it's easy to fall behind because as we're talking about accelerated learning, this is kind of an accelerated format. And so my advice for you is to eke out a little time each week that you know you're going to be working on these assignments. They're not a lot, but if you tried to do all 4 weeks in one night, it would be too much. So if you can try to eke out a little bit of time each week, if you can pay attention to the due dates, some of our assignments you'll see require you to respond to other people. And in some cases, you don't have to do that. But some of our work is dependent on each other. So especially as we get into the action plan, some of the deadlines are really firm deadlines. So if you can just get in the habit of doing that now, that would be terrific. And then finally, in weeks 3 and 4, when you're working on your action plan, I think it's really important that you're not working on your action plan in a vacuum, that this is something that you're working with your team at your agency to implement. And so you may want to put some time, especially in week 3, to work with your team to draft your action plan. In week 4, you're going to get some feedback from others on your action plan. So meeting again with your team to review that feedback might be important as well. So as you plan ahead, these are just some things that you can put on your calendar now. And it's just a way of managing your expectations and managing your time. Does that make sense? Any questions? I'm looking for affirmation again. Oh, too, I see you came on camera. Oh, you're going to give me the thumbs up. Okay, good. It makes sense. Scott, I'm glad Scott says it makes sense too. Okay, thank you. Oh, Lee and Susan. Okay, I didn't see Susan come in. Welcome, Susan. We're happy you're here. Okay, got it. Everybody's with me so far. Thank you. So one of those firm deadlines is your action plan draft. So if you just kind of know that by Sunday, March 29th, we're going to ask you to turn in a draft of your action plan. Sometimes people get really freaked out about this, like, oh my gosh, I have an action plan that's due. But it just is a draft. It's just one, you're going to be implementing one of these strategies. So as we go through each of these strategies, you're going to be thinking, does this have potential for me? Is this something I think would help my programs? And then you're going to develop a little action plan to say, what is my next best step if I was going to do that? The reason this one is a firm deadline is we're going to assign people to review your action plan, your draft action plan, and give you feedback. And if we don't have an action plan in there, we won't have people to assign to it. And so if you could just make sure that your draft action plan is ready by that deadline of March 29th. So now we're going to hop into the meat of today's session, and we're going to start exploring some of the accelerated learning strategies that we'll look at over the next 4 weeks. And I have a little oh, there it is. Okay. So first of all, let's start out with the definition of a career pathway. So this is from the Workforce Innovation and Opportunities Act. And as you probably are familiar with this WIOA program, as we call it, the term career pathway appears multiple times in our Workforce Innovation and Opportunities Act guidance. And this is the official definition, that the term career pathway means a combination of rigorous and high quality education training and other services that organizes education training and other services to meet the particular needs of an individual in a manner that accelerates the education and career advancement of the individual to the extent practicable. So when we look at this particular quote, I'm just wondering, does anything here stand out to you about a pathway? Does this fit with your definition of a pathway? Somebody can just shout it out. Or Scott, without a mic, you can type it if you want to. Scott says it's very wordy, but it does fit with your school's definition. Thank you, Scott. Danielle, you were going to say something, I think.
Yeah, it is wordy, but again, it does put exactly what we do into terms. But with the individuals that I work with, it's just literally what job do you want to do? I work with individuals with disabilities, and it's like, what job do you want to do? Okay, what can you do within that job? It's very simplistic in the career pathway, but I meet all of these goals within the simplicity of what they want.
Yes. So I think if we kind of unpack it a little bit, you'll see some of the key ingredients. So it's high quality education, it's training. And so the training that we're referring to here is really career training. The high quality education could be some of the more academic skills that somebody will need to access that training. But then it's also other services. And so that's when we start getting into the support services or wraparound services that might be needed for a student to be successful in our programs. The other thing I like about this is that it talks about acceleration already in WIOA. It's already thinking about we're not doing things the way that we've always done them. We're really thinking about how can we help students. And I think too, you mentioned this in your introduction, is really if your students are 40 and they are coming to you because they need to work, they don't have years and years to learn skills before they can go to work. So we're trying to help them get into the workplace as quickly as they can. So let's go ahead. So accelerated learning, this is just the dictionary definition. I won't necessarily read it. I don't know that this is this is surprising at all. But I will say that usually acceleration doesn't mean just doing everything that you've always done, only faster. It means that you're really strategic about what it is that you're teaching, so that it is more efficient and effective for our students. Um, Oh, let's see. Oh, Scott says one of my students said this at the at the school board meeting. Instead of years of detours and prerequisites, this gives students one dedicated year building real employable skills. Yes, that's I love that your student caught on to that. So it's really having systems work together, being strategic. It's transforming how we've provided services for students, so that they're learning things quickly, but we're not skimping on rigor. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on. So this particular definition starts to think about what does accelerated learning achieve? So I'll read this quote for us. So accelerated learning can create the transformed infrastructure and delivery modes that are required to meet the goals of expanding access, closing achievement gaps, assisting workers to advance, and transitioning learners to credit-bearing post-secondary or occupational training. So as we start to see this particular quote, I think this is starting to hint at this idea of transforming our infrastructure or transforming our delivery modes so that we're really expanding access. So when we think about that old way of doing things where you might have given a pre-test to test somebody's level of literacy before you would allow them to enroll in a CTE course, this is saying, no, we want to do it differently because our adults don't have time to learn English first and then take a training program. Our adults need to figure out how to do these things quickly, so that they can get into the labor market or into credit-bearing post-secondary as quickly as possible. Are you with me? Any thoughts here? It's sometimes really weird just to talk to a bunch of blank screens. So if you want to chime in at any time, you're welcome to. Oh, thank you for turning on your cameras. So you're just demonstrating that you're following along. You're still really there. It's not just a radio show. Thank you. So today, we've organized on your handout, you're going to see three different strategies that are nested under each of these three C's of acceleration strategies. So compression, customization, and contextualization. Today in the webinar, we're going to talk about contextualization. And in additional assignments that you'll have this week, you'll be looking more at compression and customization. So we'll take a look at some of those too. But for today, we're going to focus in on the three strategies in the broad heading of contextualization. So you can see on your handout, we're going to be looking at implementing integrated education and training programs. Those are IET programs. You may have IET already at your site. Maybe I'll just see a show of hands. How many of you already have IET at your site? If you know. Susan's maybe. Okay. All right, well, we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then we'll talk about contextualizing instruction and what does it really mean to present some of our academic skills in the context of a career training program. And then we'll also talk about this strategy of integrating career awareness into our programs or into our curriculum. So let's take a look at this cartoon. I don't know how well you can see it on your screens, but you want to take a minute in the chat or you can unmute and just shout it out. I found this cartoon in the San Diego Union. You can see how long ago it was in 2007, but it was something that really stuck with me, was just this idea of the good jobs at the far basket, and we have a dropout at the other end of the court. So, does anybody want to come off mic or chat and tell me what you think what we think about what's happening in this image?
It's just an old school way of thinking, and I think that's what I love so much about vocational turning into CTE. And so the years ago, and just that the experience that the dropouts now get can turn and really flip that into things they can use, towards, teaching or doing something within that trade is really flipped over the years. And it's very antiquated. And it's cool. I like that it's antiquated because there's so much you learn on the other side of the court.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that, Danielle. And I think that what we see is as we think about these acceleration strategies, that's really what we're focusing on. We're trying to do everything possible for our students to move them to the other side of the court so that it's easier and easier for them to shoot a basket in that good jobs basket. And so, as we think about implementing IET or contextualizing instruction, integrating career awareness, I think sometimes it's helpful for us to think of a specific student that we're serving and how might that student benefit from some of these applications, or what could we do for this particular student. So if you have that student in mind, that might be a way to approach this when you think about developing your own action plan. So strategy 7, so on your handout, strategy 7 is integrated education and training, implementing some kind of an IET program. And so this is a service approach that provides adult education and literacy activities concurrently and contextually with workforce preparation activities and workforce training for a specific occupation or occupational cluster for the purposes of educational and career advancement. So let's unpack that a little bit. What do you see going on here? What is this saying an integrated education and training program are?
Um, we've tried to use IET here, but we have discovered that with this really small program, it's really difficult to get that IET approach. And for us, that means I'm working with ESL, ABE students to push them into the career tech ed classes and basically boost vocabulary, boost working skills, those transferable skills as they go through those classes. I was supposed to have a teacher who taught CTE work with the ESL teacher and they would work together. And my CTE teacher refuses. And so my ESL teacher is on the hook for all of it. And so she had to mix and match what she could do to help promote the CTE classes. Right now, we've got it work just within the scheduling. So they go from their ESL class and then they go straight to the CTE class. But I don't have any rollover of teachers. So it's one teacher here and one teacher there. Would I prefer to see the co-teaching going on? Yes, I would, because I think that would make them more successful when they get to the CTE classes. That way they know what to expect. But with 3 teachers, I do the best I can.
Yeah, no, I understand. And I appreciate that you provided a nice segue to our next slide, because one of the things that we'll talk about are these 2 different models of integrated education and training. One is co-teaching and one is alternating teachers. And so as we think about co-teaching, and I think that language is much more prevalent today than maybe it was even 10 years ago. But it's basically 2 teachers teaching together in the classroom at the same time. So we see it sometimes in our school districts in special education classrooms where we'll have a special ed teacher working with another teacher, a core content teacher to provide supports for students. So that concept is the same in these integrated education and training programs. Often to students, they don't know that one teacher is an academic teacher and one teacher is a CTE teacher because the teachers have planned together, they're working together, and they're co-delivering this instruction. And so you can see in this particular model, we would say that we've got, and this is the IBEST model. I don't know if you've heard of the IBEST model, but it's something that is a research-based practice that has been really successful in this nurse assistant program. And this has been offered in my region in San Diego. With San Diego Community College District. So I think it's something to think about. Sometimes our teachers, when they hear integrated education and training, or they hear that they're doing something with another teacher, sometimes people will feel like, oh, that's more. We're going to have to do more to do this. And so I think this is going back to that idea of transforming things. It's not that you're adding something. When you're integrating it, it's not one more thing. It's integrated, but it means that you have to change your delivery mode. So going back to some of those earlier definitions, you're changing how we do this so that it really is truly integrated. And we'll look at some specific examples of how we might integrate that. Alternating teachers is the other example, and it sounds like, Susan, this is something that has had more success on your campus. And that is where you have one teacher who teaches one concept and another teacher who teaches maybe the career training program. And so, what might happen is if you're, let's say you have a nurse assistant program that's offered 3 days a week, 2 days a week, you would have students come and work with an academic content teacher. It's nice when the two teachers have some planning time so that the academic teacher is reinforcing concepts that have been taught or preloading students with information that will be taught the next day so that they have the vocabulary. They are maybe ready for the math before concepts are taught. So again, this is transformational in that it's happening at the same time. It's not that we're asking students to get their academic skills up first and then enroll in a career training program. We're giving them the skills that they need at the time. So it's kind of this just-in-time approach for students to access career training. Does that concept make sense? The alternating teachers and the co-teaching? Do you have any examples of this going on at your sites yet?
Yeah, that's exactly what I do at my site. I have a really unique situation. I work with developmentally disabled individuals, but they're actually in a facility. So they actually go to school and work where they live. So for many years, I was the only teacher. Since 2014, I was only teacher. And just in the last year, well, over a year now, I have another teacher working with me. So he teaches on Tuesdays and Thursdays, the main classes, and then I teach on Mondays and Wednesdays. And I keep on the problem and the issue that I have in my site, and we all have struggles, I know, is that we are the only two educators in our building. So my supervisors and the people that structure the day and figure out those type of things are psychiatric technicians, nurses, clinicians by trade. So it's very difficult sometimes to take what I'm learning in these amazing classes and try to bring it back to that culture of thinking. That's the difference. The plus, and I have many pluses. The plus is I have access to vehicles. I have access to psych techs and staff at my disposal. They have student to staff ratios. And what I'd like to tap into is the different trades that are going on in the building. They're patching up holes. They're doing painting. There's a kitchen. There's kitchen stuff. I would love to get those skills transferable. The problem is I deal with unions and jobs and them working within those areas. So there's a lot of red tape working for the state. So I just wanted to say that we do this and it helps so much because I get tired of hearing me with these clients and these students. So it's nice for them to have another teacher's voice here and another method of learning.
Yeah, I love that. And I noticed I noticed the red tape in your introduction to Danielle. And I think that there are some strategies that you're,
Excellent.
as we go through this, you're going to have oh yes, you're going to have a lot of examples to share with us of things that you're implementing. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So, oh, and Scott, thank you for chiming in. Our medical assistant programs are taught by two teachers as a team, and they work amazingly well together. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. So you have the co-teaching model there. So we'll give you a minute. I'm not actually going to give you a minute, but I'm just going to remind you to keep some of these straight using your handouts. So, so if you can write little thoughts about this, what kinds of things what kinds of things do these strategies address? What are some challenges? What data would you need to collect if you were going to do this? What kinds of red tape might you encounter? And then let's think a little bit about contextualizing instruction. So this is a contextualized instruction is a diverse family of instructional strategies that's designed to more seamlessly link the learning of foundational skills and academic or occupational content by focusing teaching and learning squarely on concrete applications in a specific context that is of interest to the student. So this is where we start to think about how are we teaching academic skills and at the same time these occupational skills, their workplace skills maybe that our students need to know. So there are some kind of simple examples that we'll look at, but I think you can do this in any class. So one of the things that I like to think about is contextualizing even our high school diploma programs in either business or in health, because even if somebody doesn't want to go into the workforce, they have an interest in business or in health. They're interested in their own health. They're interested in how businesses work. They're, any occupation you go into, you're interested in business. That's a foundational skill. So I challenge people who are teaching, for example, in our high school diploma program, to step away from using only, literature, and maybe looking at some workplace content that can teach the skills that students need to have, as well as teaching reading and writing, listening and speaking. And so we'll look at some examples of that. Let's see here. So knowing what you know about contextualizing instruction in your classroom, how often do you currently contextualize instruction in your classrooms? If you can just take a quick poll, Maria's going to post that for us. So it looks like the majority of us say sometimes, and then often and rarely are occasionally. We have one person that says often or rarely. So I think that the next question is really for us to think about what are some methods that you use to contextualize instruction. So what are you already doing to contextualize instruction? So Scott, you said often, and you're using architectural firms require skills vary from engineering firms. You might want to tell us some more about that.
Would an example maybe be like if I have an individual that's interested in being an automotive tech, I would make a vocabulary list using wrenches and tools and different things. So instead of just using a vocabulary list from a Jane Doe novel, I would use a vocabulary list from the trade that they want. So I'm killing two birds with one stone. I'm teaching them the vocabulary of the job, but I'm also teaching them how to read. Would that be an example?
That is 100% it.
Then I do it a lot.
Yeah, good.
Now that I know what I do it a lot.
Yeah. So next time you take this course, Danielle, you can say that you do it often. So I think that's exactly it. So what we're trying to do, again, we're not adding this to an existing course. We're changing what we're doing because we're integrating this strategy. And this is a way that we can provide instruction in the context of either workplace skills or some kind of occupation specific skills. So here's one example of a workplace poster about hand washing that could be used to contextualize instruction in an ESL class. So you could talk to students about sequencing. You could put the you could put the tasks in sentence strips and ask students to organize them in the way that they occur. So there are a variety of ways that you could use this in an ABE or an ESL classroom. It's just a matter of, I think, looking at the content a little bit differently. So what you're doing is going to have a workplace application. So Scott, thank you for this comment. Engineering requires knowledge of geometric dimensioning and tolerancing. GD and T is not used, so that's the geometric dimension and tolerancing is not used in architectural design. So medical design requires different skills than agricultural equipment design. Yeah, thank you. And then Susan, I see your comment here too about preloading vocabulary to discuss specific careers. Yeah, excellent. Thank you. So you could do something like this workplace poster. Students are reading, students are learning sequencing, but you're probably changing your curriculum slightly to do something that is more contextualized. So the next strategy is integrating career awareness. And so this is something you could do in every level of the course. It's appropriate for everyone, whether or not they're in the workforce. I mean, I think that's something that we talk about a lot is, oh, well, if we have a lot of students who are retired and they're not interested in work, but they're coming to our programs, or they're just not looking for work. Is this something that they should do too? And so we say yes. If somebody's retired, they still have work experience that they can bring to others in the classroom. If somebody is not looking for work now, they may be looking for work in the future. Again, I think the more awareness our students have, I'm thinking of our English as a second language students, the more awareness they have of the world around us, what different occupations are. They may be helping their children, they may be helping their neighbor, they may be helping themselves. Sometimes they don't even know that they could aspire to some of these goals. So when we think about setting goals, it's something that I like to revisit again and again with students, because when they first come to us, they may not be aware of what goals, what opportunities even exist. So setting goals is something that I think can happen over time with students. As we look at this next slide, how often do you integrate career awareness into your curriculum? And then we'll talk about some methods. So another quick poll here. How often do you think you integrate career awareness? It could be guest speakers, could be goal setting. So most of you are saying often or sometimes. Thank you. Let me move on here. So this is a simple worksheet. This is an example of what you could do. I know most of you are career technical education teachers, but if you were working with other ABE or ESL teachers on your site, these are simple things that could be implemented into A course is basically this whole idea of goal setting. What do students want to do in year one? And in 3 years, what's maybe their next goal? And then finally, as we start thinking about their long-term goals, where do I see myself in 5 years? The nice thing about goal setting, we know that there's a relationship between student goals and learner persistence. When students have a vision of themselves in the future, they're more likely to persist. They understand why I'm learning this is because it's related to this. So again, going back to integrating any of these strategies, contextualized learning, the integrating career awareness, these are all things that make learning relevant for our students. And it's a way to personalize education for the students. If as a teacher you know that someone is interested ultimately in this, then wouldn't it be nice for us to customize the assignments that they're working on, something that is related to what they want to do in the future rather than reading Beowulf or something, for example. So let's just share in the chat here. What do you think might be a challenge of implementing a contextualization strategy? You can unmute and shout it out if you prefer. You don't have to type in the chat.
For my individuals, in meeting their goals, it has to do with their essential skills, their behavioral skills. If they don't have the essential skills, I can't connect what we're learning there with the community. Like right now, we're doing a huge thing on shelters because I got a parvo pup. So now we're going to start going to that shelter and we're going to start cleaning once a week. So I'm talking about vocabulary. I'm talking about the skills and the things that their jobs that they're doing around Canyon Springs, the things that they're doing around sweeping, mopping, so they can transfer those skills and see how those are transferable at a dog shelter and at a puppy shelter. But for me right now, it's also, their behavioral challenges, the medications, those are the kind of challenges I have within these kind of things,
Yeah.
which are not bad problems to have, I guess.
Well, and I see, Susan, you identified some challenges, maybe language barriers and levels of understanding. And especially when we have multi-level classes, sometimes it's really hard to develop strategies to incorporate this. Scott says that a challenge might be students having difficulty believing that they can get a job when they graduate, and the hurdle just feels too great for them. And Scott, I see earlier that you had mentioned some examples of the integrating career awareness, like the guest speakers or field trips and job searches online. So thank you for that. Yeah, so all of these are some potential challenges. And then another question is to think about how we would measure success. So how might we measure success for any of the contextualization strategies?
When you visually see like reproducible evidence that what you're being taught is transferable at another in another situation, or that they're able to use what you're being taught in a totally different text, and then letting them know that they did that and that what they just did, and they're like, oh, really, so I think for me it's that, seeing success in that.
Yeah, I love that. And I think going back to Scott's idea of that one of the challenges is students not knowing what they can do. I think you're talking, Danielle, about really highlighting what the skills are that they've developed and how those can translate to success in a workplace. I don't know if any of you are still using competencies, course competencies, so that students get a certificate of completion that outlines specific competencies that they've learned, or digital badging is another tool to do that, so that students really are given the language by a certificate of competency that checks off specific skills that they've learned. Now they can go to an employer, they can fill out an application, and they can talk specifically about, they have the language to say, I can do this, I can do this, I learned this. And so that can be done either in one of our career courses, or it can be done in our academic courses. I stress that a lot with our ESL program, because I want our students to recognize the skills that they have that translate to workplace. Oh, yes. Oh, I love this, Scott. When my students say out loud, hey, I can do this. Yeah, they're surprised. It's wonderful. Yes, you can. Also, when they pass the AutoCAD and SolidWorks industry exams, yes, some kind of a national end of course exam that proves that they have these skills. That's great. And Susan, you talk about when my students can achieve certification, they're eager to go to job fairs, can create a credible resume. Yes, yeah, great examples of how we can measure success. I appreciate it. Thank you. So if you wanted to take a deeper dive into some of these, I'll tell you that CalPro has some other learning opportunities that you might be interested in. There's an integrated and contextualized workforce skills course. These are offered either online or as communities of practice. There's also an IET fundamentals course. And then there's some curriculum guides that you can access. So we've listed those here for you. And Maria, thank you very much for putting the links in the chat for anybody who would like those. So we're going to wrap things up. We've got about 8 minutes left before we turn into pumpkins. So just some quick reminders. That week of March 23rd to March 27th, so that's our week 3, that's the week that you want to eke out some time to meet with your team to talk about, hey, if we were going to implement one of these accelerated learning strategies, what would it look like? And how could we do that? What would be the next best steps for us to take to implement some of these? And then our next synchronous meeting is going to be Monday, March 23rd. So it's the first day of that 3rd week. And it's same time, 3:30 in the afternoon. So I hope that you can all attend. I'm looking forward to seeing you again. And then, these due dates, we talked about these earlier. The action plan draft, you're going to submit by Sunday, the 29th. You're going to give some feedback on another team's plan. And so you're going to do that sometime that 4th week. So you're going to be giving feedback to somebody else before the 3rd of April. And then you're going to consider some key takeaways, and that's due on Sunday when the course closes on April 5th. So that's kind of what we have coming up over the next few weeks. Any questions about the Moodle course, about anything we've talked about, anything you can expect?
Will this slideshow be shared with us?
Thanks for asking, Lee. We typically don't send out the slides themselves, although the recording will be posted.
Okay.
And we, the listing of, for example, what am I trying to say? The resources that are listed, we can certainly, place those on I think we have a resources page, but if we don't, I'll make sure that we have one to hold the resources that are being pointed to.
Thank you.
Thanks.
What else? Anything else on your minds?
Mine's down in that area Kathleen. There's a place called Pizzabilities. Have you heard about it? Down your way in San Diego. There's one in Santee. There's one in Alpine.
I have not, but I
It's
want to know more about it.
it's called Pizzabilities, and it is a pizza place, but it's ran by individuals with disabilities. So that's why it's called Pizzabilities. So um, that's what I'm trying to do. That's my passion project, and that's what my whiteboard is. I'm trying to start a CTE training center for adults with disabilities in the community called the Academy.
I love that.
And yeah, so that's my passion project. Just because when they move out, they don't have anything. So down there in that area, if you ever are out in those areas, and Poway holds a special place in my heart out there. But anyways, I used to drive my son out there for pitching lessons every week. Um, he used to take pitching lessons from a famous coach out there. Anyways, but Pizzabilities, you got to go check it out. But they hire individuals with disabilities, and that's type of curriculum. I want to bring WIOA funds and curriculum into those places, so that way we can bring that teaching model to those and kind of have a school to filter individuals into those type of stakeholding businesses.
I love that. I love that you call it a passion project. I love the vision. So, yes, I love
Oh
it.
yeah, let's do that after I'm done working for the state, right? You know, but yeah, I tell God your plans. I just say it out loud and hopefully somebody will hear it loud enough, right?
That's right. That's right. What else? Anything else, people? Well, I thank you for your time and attention this afternoon. I will see you online. You've got your week one assignments that are due. Week one concludes on Sunday. We'll have this webinar posted, I think by midday tomorrow is what we're hoping. And so I look forward to working with you. I'm really excited about this group, and I love what we're going to be discussing. So we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Kathleen, and thanks everyone. And I'm already looking forward to seeing the plans that are going to come out of this group. Really appreciate your great engagement today, and Kathleen, to you for your energy and expertise in carrying us through it. So we will see you again at our next session on it's Monday the 23rd. And yeah, see you then and see you in Moodle before then. Take care.
Thank
Bye-bye.
You.